Thanks for sticking with me, guys. It's Vol here in Game 5 of the Fluffycon 2011 tournament. It's Empire against Warriors of Chaos for a second time, although the major difference being that it's Simon with his much harder Warriors of Chaos, mainly themed with Tzeentch. Now, I wasn't kidding myself. I'd won 3 games, lost 1 narrowly through this tournament so far, so I could really only expect to have faced one of the more skilled opponents with one of the harder armies in the second day. So I knew that this was coming. I knew that there was going to be a really tough matchup that would really push my skill and luck to the limits, really, and this was it. But still, I couldn't help feeling like, I was just shaking my head in disbelief, trying to work out how I was actually going to stop this guy. He's got 2 big units of Tzeentch warriors, of 30 of them. 30! That's just a bit too much for Fluffycon. 5+ sword save and close combat with parry because of Tzeentch. He's got a block of 20 warriors, 3 dragon ogres, 5 knights, and some redirectors, as well as some spawn, which will be potentially quite annoying. And to top it off, he's got a level 2 mage with fire. Again, in a normal tournament, it's fluffy, but in this tournament it's actually quite good because most people take fairly weak, light units. Now, to make matters worse, the mission was the Blood and Glory mission, which meant that I couldn't actually deploy my guys in the corner, into flanks. I had to face him. He gets an extra 15 inches forward, and I'd actually concede him an extra 500 victory points for the scenario if he captured the flags. Now, in the Warhammer rulebook, you guys know the game ends and you automatically lose if you lose all your banners, but in our tournaments we play it, the game continues. You just get your opponent gets a victory point bonus if they've captured your flags first. However, having said that, if you guys remember my Masters battle reports when I was playing Empire, in my second day of that event, I had a very similar game against Nicola. His Warriors of Chaos against my Empire. It was the same scenario, in the same sort of situation, and I managed to pull that one out of the bag and turn it into what was looking like a crushing defeat into a narrow win. So, with that in mind, I actually saw on the battlefield there was a tower in the middle of the field, which I took, and I've deployed in not such a similar way that I did in that game, but in the same sort of way. So guys, get your popcorn, sit back and enjoy this battle report, because I'm going to do my utmost as a Warhammer general to make sure that I don't get completely ashamed in front of my viewers today. So it's a big ask, but we're going to get straight into it. Next image, Simon has sent his redirecting cavalry around the left along with his dragon ogres, and he's essentially sending the dragon ogres straight into the teeth of my guns, knowing that they've got toughness, armor save, 4 wounds, so it's going to take me a while to chew through them, and once he does get into combat, that he's really going to mash through and lighten the load for his big blocks to sweep me later down the track. Next image, we're in, I actually managed to pick up the first turn, luckily, sending my pistoliers onto the hill, and his warhounds charging straight at me, and I stood and shoot, killed one of them, and in close combat killed a couple more, giving me a chance to really wipe out the small annoying unit before moving on to harass him later on. But more importantly, and I didn't get a picture of this, but in my first turn, my first cannon shot nailed his chariot in one go, wiping it out. So a nice, handy stroke of good luck. I'm going to need a lot more good luck than that to actually take this game. But it's a good start nonetheless, so I'll keep sticking at it. Next image, he sent around a unit of what looked like demonettes riding, Seekers of Slaanesh, but they're actually representing Chaos Marauder horsemen with flails, and, no, actually not so much flails, but throwing axes. Due to not being able to deploy my extreme flanks, I've had to put the cannon in a really isolated position up front, simply because I stuffed up my deployment a little bit, but it didn't matter too much because I can get these swordsmen around in my first turn and actually try and get off a charge, or at least get in the way of the cannon, stopping them, or at least defending the cannon from these horsemen. Which was fortunate, but what actually happens here in the following turn is that I managed to complete quite a difficult charge requiring a 9 or higher to actually attack the Chaos Horsemen, and succeeding with it. So again, another stroke of good luck, protecting my cannon and getting the swordsman to into an advantageous position out in the flank. So things going real well. Next image, you can see that the swordsmen have connected with the horsemen. I've got my my halberdiers running through the forest, which turns out to be a venom thicket, losing a couple of guys due to the poison there, the dangerous trains. Same with the swordsman, mind you. And if you look at that positioning quite carefully, it means that if he declares a charge from the dragon ogres at the cannon, they can't quite wheel past the halberdiers to connect. However, if he does actually charge the halberdiers, I can simply hold and force him to overrun in a direction that takes the dragon ogres past the cannon. So essentially I've manoeuvred in such a way to give me more cannon shots, which will inevitably be directed against the dragon ogres themselves, and lightening the load for the rest of my army trying to deal with them. And hopefully once turns 4, 5 and 6 come around, I'll be able to bog down the rest of his infantry line in the back there, maybe reduce their size a bit with my my rocket battery, and maybe with some spells or some flanking just pull something out of the bag. Next image, I want you to look carefully at the centre of the field where my pistoliers are on the hill fighting against 2 hounds. He's actually moved his marauders up on the hill as well, nearby, and what I'll be able to do is actually get in their way if I can win that combat. You can also see he's got a character on his own on the hill. That character is actually one in the units. He just didn't want his model to fall over because it's made out of metal, so that's actually in part of the marauders. Now, precariously, I've got both my knights and Flaggellants on the other side of the building. The plan there is really just to wait. If he moves his knights within an easy charge range of my knights, I'll charge him. If he doesn't, I'll simply wait for the marauders to get closer and threaten to flank charge him with both the knights and the swordsmen at the same time, potentially winning a sweeping combat. So really the plan here is just to put some pressure on him, create some minefields here, slow him down as much as possible, and make him try and take risks that might actually pay off in my favour. But going to the next photo, if you have a look at this quite carefully, I've won combat against the warhounds by killing them, which was thankful. And then in the end of my combat phase here, which is my turn, I've reformed them in such a way that they've actually lined up in front of his marauder block, forcing him to either charge with the marauders, which will slow him down for a turn, or something else. So what he's done is he's charged his Chaos Knights in there, and because the Knights were in such a position where the models would actually physically fall over if they were placed on the hill, he's just used a movement tray to represent where his Knights actually are. So if you see a blank movement tray in the centre of the photo there, that's the actual position of his Chaos Knight unit, whereas the actual miniatures are placed behind them just to show roughly where the Knights are. But I quite like this move because it sacrifices the pistoliers, forces him really to take action here by moving one of his units into a position where he can't really get across the board fast enough to really give him a comfortable end of game win later on. So it's really a lot of planning here and timing. Going to the next image, he has indeed charged the halberdiers with his dragon ogres. I've managed to nuke one of them with the cannon, so the cannon's doing quite well. His infantry unit is following up, and luckily I've managed to devastate about 18 guys from the help of my rocket battery landing on him. And in the right-hand side of the photo, the swordsmen have seen off the horse rider. There's only one left from that unit. I decided to not chase him because he couldn't rally anyway without rolling a double one. And by reforming, that would not only block the dragon ogres from charging past into the cannon, but give my guys an opportunity to threaten some flank charges later in the game if needed, and of course mean that unit wouldn't actually lose the banner or the points, which would be highly welcome as well. Going to the next image, things have progressed a little bit, and what I've had to do, because we're getting quite late in the day here in terms of the turns, I've moved up a sacrificial unit of handgunners. I can afford to do that, and he's charged in on both sides with his Chaos Marauders and his Chaos Warriors. Now, he was under the impression that if you destroy a unit in combat, you overrun, and if he hits the building, he can actually declare a fresh charge against the building. The rules, I'm not sure if they're specifically clear, if there's an FAQ on it. I'm sure you guys can look it up in detail and let us know, but what I believe is the case is that you can't assault a building except by charging it in the movement phase. If you just pursue into the building or overrun into the building, you can't actually initiate a combat with it. So with that in mind, my opponent actually had really wasted around here thinking that was going to be his plan. Much to my fortune, I've managed to cast Occam's Mind Razor on the unit of handgunners fighting off the Dragon Ogre, and because he doesn't have higher initiative than me, I can use the Occam's Mind Razor to actually kill him, and that's exactly what I did, fishing out some heavy points out of his Dragon Ogre unit, wiping them out. One unfortunate thing that's happened a little bit earlier, which I didn't get a photo of, was that the Chaos Warriors charged my unit of swordsmen, which were waiting on the wings on the right-hand side. I opted to flee, which I'd planned for, giving myself about 9 or 10 inches worth of room, but I rolled an 11, and they fled off the table, and he was simply able to redirect into the side of the handgunners, and that's what you see in this photo. So unfortunate for me, they're losing maybe 150, 175 points worth of men, but at least he didn't get a 25-point banner out of me from killing me in the combat. It does get me closer to the fortitude number, but because I've got 3 units worth of banners plus a BSB and a general left alive, and not in a threatened position at this point, I'm actually feeling very confident. Going to the next photo, he has bounced back from the situation there with his marauders. His big unit on the hill has really roadblocked. It can't really get anywhere, but possibly moving in to threaten the Flaggellants. If he moves too far forward, of course, I'll charge the Flaggellants in front and the Knights in the flank, potentially sweep him away. He's done damage to the crossbows in the building with some spells, but critically, there was a destruction of the Dragon Ogre unit in one combat phase there, which caused a panic check nearby, and unbelievably, he's failed 2 panic checks in a row with his Chaos Warriors, sending them to the middle of the field here in cowardly fear. And I think really that piece of bad luck, combined with the other pieces of bad luck that my opponent has had, and some good positioning by myself, has really saved my ass big time, because that means the Chaos Warriors can't charge in the last couple of turns, and the game was looking like it could be a draw. Going to the next image, what he's done here is he's actually charged the building. Actually, no, he hasn't. I've moved my crossbows out of the building in front of where he had his marauders located. He has charged them. I've fled through the building. That meant that I couldn't rally the crossbows, but it also meant that he couldn't actually do anything with that marauder unit other than that. And I would have had a chance to rally the wizard and his friends, but unfortunately I didn't. So losing the wizard and the crossbows there. Again, he's leveling up the points here. I've killed the dragon ogres and some peripheral sort of redirecting units. But on the other hand, he's got my wizard, crossbowmen, and swordsmen so far, so very close game. Throughout the entire game, he's been shooting fireball spells at my units of swordsmen containing the general and BSB, but I've been passing more panic checks, fortunately, so I haven't really lost a big chunk of guys there either. Going to the next and final photo of the game, I've sacrificed another unit of handgunners here to take the final turn 6 charge of his marauders and chaos warriors, which of course wipe out the handgunners, but don't actually leave him in any new combats. My own swordsmen have garrisoned the building, and the knights and flagellants haven't seen combat at all. My war machine's staying alive as well. So this game actually turned out to be a marginal win for my opponent, which I couldn't be happier about, because there was no real way I was going to win it without getting some lucky breaks. And just due to the way I've played it, I've managed to avoid a 20-0 massacre, and I'm very relieved about that. It also means that I will be going into the final game of the tournament on a very healthy battle score, and although my final game may well be against one of the harder matchups or opponents, I shouldn't do too badly if I can just hold the next game to either a draw or win as well. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little bit of Warhammer there. It was actually quite an interesting game tactically. I would have liked to have played in a situation where the matchup was a bit easier, or maybe a different mission, but I'm happy with the result nonetheless.